Good evening, everybody. This is the 22nd of February, 2026, and we're coming at you live from Kentucky. I'm live from Tunnel Hills, and I have with me today very honored and frequent guest, Mr. Dakota Compton. Dakota, after I say a little bit here, I'll let you introduce yourself. All right.
Sounds good.
All right. So, y'all, again, coming at you live. I am Spencer Keck with the Hillbilly Think Tank. And here in Tunnel Hills, Hardin County, Kentucky, we live for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And we understand that it is the highest honor a man could have in his life to be able to serve our neighbors as ourselves. And so I'm going to let William talk about his plan to do that.
Yeah, so for those who don't know me, I am down in Warren County. I'm a public school teacher. I'm a city commissioner for one of our small cities in Warren County. And I'm actually running for Congress here in Kentucky's 2nd Congressional District. And if you don't know about who is representing Kentucky's 2nd Congressional District, his name is Brett Guthrie. And you may know him as the man responsible for Medicaid cuts in the budget bill that passed last year. But one of the things he likes to talk about is how he always supports our veterans. And if you're okay with me going straight into it, Spencer.
Please do. Yeah, as a teacher like yourself and me being a teacher, we're, educated hillbillies, I'd say. I know you're not from the hills, but you are a hilltopper, right? So don't let them call it, say that's an oxymoron because we're not morons.
But so my opponent, Brett Guthrie, he'll tell you he supports veterans because he votes for VA funding bills and defense authorization bills. And I tell everybody that's just the bare minimum that you would expect someone in Congress to do. Voting for large funding packages when everyone knows it will pass through the House of Representatives is not leadership when it comes to our veterans. That's just showing up and pressing a green button that everyone else is going to in the House. That's not being a leader. As the chairman of the Energy and Commerce Committee, Guthrie has supported broader policies to cuts to Medicaid and our public health system. And I mentioned that earlier. And so those affect our rural veterans because our veterans rely on community hospitals. They rely on clinics. They depend on clinics that depend on medical reimbursement to survive. And when those facilities are cut, the services shrink, the providers leave, the hospitals close, and veterans in our local rural communities who rely on them, they're getting the short end of the stick. And when the PACT Act passed, that's another one that my opponent will like to talk about, that he voted for and he supported. Again, bare minimum of just voting yes on that bill. It was historic, though. But implementation of that has been so slow. And if you talk to anyone who's went through that process, they'll tell you months, even years. There are veterans who are still waiting for support from that. And claims are backlogged. Our veterans are still waiting. And my question to my opponent is, being the chairman of the highest committee in the U.S. House of Representatives, where has his oversight been on this? Where has the push to demand faster processing times? Where has the accountability for the government to act quickly to help our veterans gone? with the PACT Act.
And
And
I'd
so,
like to hear his answer on that,
oh
because
yeah,
as a veteran here in Hardin County, I often use the PACT Act. You know,
hmm
I have CBOC, that's a community-based outpatient clinic there in Fort Knox. They're supposed to build one close to my house here in Elizabethtown, but for everything that I can't get done on Fort Knox, which is just only primary care, primarily, I have to go all the way to Louisville. And if I can't do something all the way in Louisville, I rely on the PACT Act, and I get regular allergy shots, which are, would be quite expensive if I paid for that out of pocket. I go bankrupt, but that's all due to my service and, breathing in all of the horrible chemicals and fumes when they did the burn pits, and also in the first Gulf War when they burnt the oil fields.
yeah, exactly. And so again, he says he supports veterans, but he does the bare minimum. And I told this to you yesterday, Spencer, and I'll tell everyone here watching. If tax breaks for our wealthy are moving faster than disability claims for our veterans, the system's broken. Priorities are wrong, and we need to fix that. If rural hospitals are struggling while politicians are declaring victory in Washington, our priorities are wrong. If suicide prevention, which is another issue our rural veterans are facing, is reactive instead of proactive, priorities are wrong.
Amen. You know,
And
and that's why I wanted you to talk
yes,
today, because if the Epstein class and their tax
yes,
breaks are more important, and they can move faster on that than they can on veteran care, we're at a crossroads, because right now they have been told in the VA, look at anyone like Mr. Keck, me, and all my fellow patriots that served. If our medicine actually reduces our pain, then they're supposed to cut our VA checks back if I'm at 100% disability. But they say if the medicine helps me with any pain or anything else that I would have a diagnosis for, they're supposed to cut back my payments monthly to like 80%, 75%, 50%, if it supposedly helps me that much. That the math there is heinous, and they're looking at having basically another bunch of veterans go down to DC and create another Hooverville with a bonus army like we had back before World War II, after World War I, during the Depression, when veterans were demanding the bonuses they had been promised. And yet we had President Hoover send in Patton, Eisenhower, and guess what other soldier?
what other soldier?
There's another third general. I'll let you look that one up. But
Okay.
Patton went in and did a cavalry charge on 500,000 veterans that were encamped on DC protesting. They thought when they saw them coming, their fellow, soldiers, they thought it was a parade coming to honor them. Instead, it was a parade coming to attack them, and did attack them in
Mhm.
DC and killed 5
Oh,
veterans. So they,
that's awful.
if Guthrie doesn't get his head out of his wazoo, he's going to find out what happens now that they've been told to do this to us and to what we rely on after serving honorably in a 20 fucking year war.
And I will also say he'll go out and he'll claim that he helped put in VA hospitals across the second congressional district. But if you, for example, I'm going to be in Butler County this coming up Saturday. If you live in Butler County, the closest VA hospital is in Owensboro or Bowling Green. That's still at least a 30-40 minute drive. And those aren't as extensive as the one in Nashville or Louisville.
Yeah, they're not hospitals. They're those
It
community-based outpatient
yeah,
clinics, which are only provide primary care. They don't provide the specialty care that many of us need for the exposure to all the things I listed earlier, and from traumatic brain injury. We don't get treatments for those. We get at those CBOCs, the community-based
yeah.
outpatient clinics. We only get them at major facilities.
Exactly. And so when it comes to veterans and veteran healthcare, the difference between myself and Representative Guthrie is the fact that one, I'll oppose these cuts to healthcare that he is parading about still across the district, cuts that affect everybody, but really go in and affect our rural veterans even more. And I apologize if you just heard that. My dog is starting to snore.
It's all
I
right.
don't know.
Mine should be in
But
my lap doing that.
so those making sure that we have measurable standards for our VA hospitals and the VA claim processing centers and transparency and fighting to make sure that our veterans get the disability claims quicker. Because I believe that if you're going to serve our country, you shouldn't have to wait months or years
But we
to
also,
get
once
help.
we get those claims, should not have them reduced just because,
Exactly.
oh, the
Yeah.
medications help, which they've been told to do now. People that
Yeah. Yeah.
work in the VA for that.
Exactly. And then fighting to expand telehealth and mobile clinics to our rural areas across not just Kentucky, but our nation. Sometimes it's not easy getting to a VA hospital. So we need to have those telehealth options to make sure our veterans are still getting the highest quality care. And that's what it's about. They served our country. You served our country. We need to do everything we can to lift you all up.
Thank you very much. And I'm going to, look forward to seeing you do that in DC when you get elected.
Yes, sir.
So y'all, if see if we got any questions. I know you had to run somewhere else. Hey there, we got Ding Black on saying hi. Hi, Ding. Yeah, so I won't hold you any longer if you need to go somewhere else, but I really appreciate you stepping on because I want everybody to hear that. What you had to say just struck me hard when you
Hmm.
said, he's more worried this whole party, that you're trying to oppose, these guardians of the pedophiles, they're more interested in helping the Epstein class get their tax breaks, and
Yep.
they're way faster than they've moved on anything when it comes to veterans. They
Yep.
don't move fast at all, if they move at all.
Yep. Exactly. And that's a shame.
Thank you for that. Appreciate
The
that.
only thing that should be moving fast with the people that are on the Epstein files is them getting thrown in jail.
There we go. But we're not doing that. We got a two-layered system. One for them when it comes to justice, which means no justice for them. And if it was us doing anything like that, we'd already been, in jail and they'd thrown away in the key. So yeah, it's before I close, guys, just want to remind you all, I am still on my fast from these Epstein facilitators. And so one of the biggest ones now is Amazon, Jeff Bezos. He's part of helping the grift continue there and not doing anything to push back on what we've seen in the streets of Memphis, Chicago, Minnesota. Just go on down the list of places that ICE is running amok against our citizens, and the place where no one is helping regular Americans. All that money should be used for you and me to make sure farmers quit going bankrupt, quit committing suicide, because the suicide rate among farmers is very high also, not just among veterans. We fail to recognize that these two critical groups in our state, they need help, and they can't get it with the current big beautiful bill and everything that they're pouring money at. If you just don't know it, the ICE folks have 3 times the budget that the United States Marine Corps does. That's a travesty. That's money that should have been going for veterans, for relieving farmers from the devastating loss that they've had under these tariffs, which our petulant little baby just announced
Yep.
Saturday. He's going to actually raise it to 15%. So it's not stopping. We're at a constitutional crisis. Y'all, you got anything else to say as we close here?
Yeah, it's just like I said earlier, you all served our country. It's time for our country to do what's right and lift you all up and take care of you all and help you all succeed and not do everything we can to rip away healthcare, to rip away housing, to rip away job opportunities. We're seeing that all across the country. We should be helping you all, and you all risk your lives for our country.
Amen. So I'm running for magistrate, District 3 here in Hardin County. I'm buying local right now in order to support everyone in this county that has suffered from the loss of the Blue Oval SK plant. Also, I'm buying local so that I can take that money that I used to be addicted to giving to Jeff Bezos. Now I'm 22 days free of that addiction, and I am buying local. Y'all, in Kentucky, we know that united we stand, divided we fall. So to not be divided, we love our neighbors as ourselves. And that's what buying local is part of. Finding that farmer who could use you and your friends getting together and say, hey, we'd like to buy a whole cow and have it slaughtered and have it packaged so we can eat it all year long and have a local healthy animal in our freezer and refrigerator. We know we do the same thing in the farmers markets, where else we can buy local produce, because we know that we are our brother's keeper and we're our sister's keeper. And that's the only way to keep pursuing life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Bless your corazon. Have a great evening and have a great week.